Yang Terhormat Datuk Haji Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, as well as Minister of Youth and Sport Sarawak. Yang Mustafa, Mr. Zhang, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism and Culture Sarawak. Your Excellency, distinguished speakers, dear delegates, and friends from the media. A very good afternoon from Sarawak, which is situated in the eastern part of Malaysia and in the island of Borneo, the largest island in Asia and the third largest in the world. My name is Karim, the chair of ICRTH2021 and the moderator for the closing ceremony. Thank you for joining us. We do apologize for the earlier technical glitches. I hope you are still with us. On one hand, we rely on the technology. On the other hand, we know sometimes they can be quite unreliable. I'm thankful for all your presence. ICRTH 2021, or International Conference on Responsible Tourism and Hospitality, is an international and professional conference aiming to bring different minds and stakeholders together to advance our knowledge and practice of tourism through the lens of responsibility and sustainable development. In these 2 days, 27 sessions were held. Hundreds and thousands of delegates from all over the world have joined and learned about rebuilding tourism and sustainable practices. This conference is not a one-off event without forethoughts and future plans. Our registration, our participation, our discussion during the sessions, and even our here presence this afternoon show that we are here for a common purpose and we are determined to see it through. Our planet is under threat. Not everyone has access to clean water. Inequality still prevails, and responsible production and consumption are still left to be desired. Tourism is and can be an effective vehicle to improve social welfare, empower the local community, young people and minorities, connect people regardless of their demographic differences, and establish peace and partnership within and across borders. However, tourism must be built in a responsible way, and that entails trust and cooperation between stakeholders. For that, on behalf of the organizers, I wish to thank the unwavering support rendered by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Sarawak. I would like to invite 16 distinguished speakers from all over the world to give 3-minute commentary each. 3 minutes is never enough. As I told the speakers, it is a great injustice to all these speakers. However, we are here to learn, and we are endeavoring to do it collectively, and we hope all these commentaries, in fact, I'm very sure all these commentaries will be useful for us to rethink and rebuild tourism in a responsible manner. I would like to invite Madam Mukvinder Sandhu, Prof, Vice-Chancellor, UCSI University, Sarawak Campus, Malaysia, Chairperson RCE Kuching, to give a commentary. Madam Mukvinder, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hiram. Thank you very much. Yang Berhormat Datuk Haji Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Sarawak, Mr. Hee Chang Ki, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Sarawak. Thank you very much for the immense support you have given us. And on behalf of UCSI University, we would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much. And I'll get right to it. I only have 3 minutes. Well, what has been shared and discussed yesterday and today has given us a lot to reflect on. And of course, it's very encouraging to see that some of these ideas and thoughts that were being discussed have already been implemented here by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture in Sarawak collectively with the other tourism stakeholders. I think one thing is clear. As governments are focused on containing the pandemic and catching up on vaccinating their people, we should rethink our ideals and aspirations as a society and look within our own communities and cities. And this was brought up over and over again. Communities, give them a seat on the table. And of course, with this, prepare ourselves on what's next. And how that next is defined by the need for humanity to come together through trust and compassion, and of course, paying attention to these communities and involving them in every decision making in tourism, and also building their resilience through their involvement and education. It has taken a pandemic to give us this chance. And so let's seize this moment and restart our economies with the planet and the prosperity and well-being of our people as our priorities. As a university administrator and speaking from the educational perspective, I can only say that in order for us to foster this transformation, we, the education systems, right from the primary schools, secondary schools, colleges and universities, we must do our part to also support and lead the transformation that is needed and mainstream ESD, or education for sustainable development, in our teaching, learning and research, and do what we can do to raise knowledge, awareness, and action that empower people to transform themselves and their societies. Thank you very much. Back to you, Dr. Hiram.
Thank you, Madam Mukvinder. We move on to the next person, Madam Rozita G, Regional Marketing Manager, Emerald Publishing in East Asia. Over to you, Madam Rozita.
Thank you, Dr. Hiram. Emerald Publishing would like to convey our heartfelt appreciation and is proud to be working with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture Sarawak, UCSI University, and Sarawak Research Society. The lineup of keynote speakers, expert dialogue, professional forums, and workshops are all very intuitive, spot on, and really resonate with the current situation to rebuild tourism through sustainable development. Emerald is a publisher that commission, curate, and showcase research that can make a real difference. We publish mission-led science, research, and tackles key societal challenges aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. That is the reason why we have collated a range of resources, future publication focus, and aligning everything we do in line with the themes relating to the UN SDGs, namely in the areas like healthier lives, quality education for all, and responsible management. We had a session yesterday titled Achieving Real Impact Through Research and Mobilizing Research into Action, where we had Dr. Helen Bedo, along with our 2020 Real Impact Award winners, Prof. Alexander and Prof. Divine, sharing their impact journey. I like Prof. Divine's quote taken from Dr. Zishan. But if you think just publishing in those is going to change the way people behave overnight, then you're delusional. So impact is the promised land of research. It means that you have arrived, and it also means you are going places. Real impact, in its truest sense, means change. It is also driven by other dynamics, including funder requirements, research assessment, societal shifts, and changing environments. With these are clear points of focus, the real significance comes from making impact meaningful to you, your partners, and your research. We believe that maximum benefit comes from planning impact, enabling you to create and navigate compelling pathways for your research. Irrespective of type, size of funding, institutions must establish meaningful ways to connect research to the outside of academia. And this is exactly what we are doing now, combining expertise and intelligence from the academia with the industries and practitioners outside. There is no single way to yield impact, and equally, there isn't an institutional template to make it happen. Real impact requires a unique approach to each project, and that is part of the exciting challenge, and we are here to support you. There is so much to do and to learn at the same time. Responsible tourism should be on everyone's agenda. To end this note, I would like to mention what our CEO, Vicky Williams, said. In a changing world, research is a fundamental part of informing decision-making and empowering real change. At Emerald, we are all guided by one thing, which is to find and share research which challenges, disrupts, and changes the world, little by little for the better. Thank you again to all the committee members and partners for working hard to make this event a successful one. Thank you. Back at you, Dr. Hiram.
Thank you, Madam Rozita. Shall we move on to Professor Dr. Zhang Chaozhi, Chairholder, UNESCO Chair on Sustainable Tourism in UNESCO Designated Sites, China, and Council Member of World Economic Forum. Dr. Zhang, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Tian. With regarding to the rebuilding tourism through sustainable development, from my understanding, all countries, all places are different. So the first and the most important to identify the key issues. And the way to identify key issues is to start a case study or best practice. So the first and most important to identify or seek for best practice. And second, to use the experience or the knowledge of the best practice to share with all of us. In this way, we can use the knowledge to promote sustainable tourism, to rebuild desolation. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang. Let's move on to the next person. Your Excellency, Mr. Robert Alabado, Under Secretary, Tourism, Regulation, Coordination, and Resource Generation, Department of Tourism from the Philippines. Over to you, Mr. Robert.
Yes, good afternoon to everyone, to our distinguished speakers, hosts, guests, and participants. Thank you for inviting the Philippine Department of Tourism. In behalf of our Tourism Secretary, Bernadette Romulo Puyat, I would like to greet you all mabuhay from the Philippines. With tourism, sustainable tourism as this administration's centerpiece, we can cite the island of Boracay as its best example on how political will is a must to transform our destinations. It shocked the country and the world when the government decided to close Boracay for rehabilitation, considering that it was the country's most famous tourist destination with its world-famous white beach. We show that it takes a whole-of-government approach to get things done. Every agency of the Philippine government worked hard together to rehabilitate the whole island destination, from housing its residents to beach protection, to provision of training courses for tourism workers, to the installation of wastewater facilities and roads. Everyone contributed in the restoration of its environment. With better tourism management systems in place, we hope to sustain the country's edge in terms of sustainable tourism. And we hope that when we sustain the island's natural beauty, then we are taking care of the next generations to come. Responsible tourism comes in different forms. I once was a tour guide and I guided a tourist as she bought hand-woven cloth from Mindanao called tinala. She asked the old woman from the Tiboli tribe weaving inside the stall if she was happy that her hand-woven products are selling well. The old woman answered, "No, I am not happy. I am just forced to sell our cloth to buy food for my family. These clothes are our tribe's sacred cloth and patterns, and soon they will be worn by strangers who will pretend as if they were members of my tribe, even without knowing us." The tourist was shocked and cried. She then asked, "What should I do?" because I want to buy your lovely clothes. The old woman told her, it is simple. Tell the world about my tribe who made that woven material. Tell them about our culture, and you have given my tribe the honor and respect it deserves. Responsible tourism also means respect for culture. Each souvenir item that we buy contains a story of that community, nation, or tribe. Let us learn their heritage, as it is our responsibility as tourists to preserve it and tell their stories too. Two things. It takes a whole government and its local community to sustain a tourist destination. Point two, travelers have the responsibility to also tell the sacred stories of the cultures that they encounter in their travels. Mabuhay ang turismo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. I'm just informed that Madam Rizki, Handayani, Mustafa, for Excellency, cannot make it this afternoon. She is the Deputy Minister, Tourism, Product and Events, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, Indonesia. If you wish to watch the video of the presentation, do remember to visit the conference website because she gave good insights about rebuilding tourism, in particular how Indonesia revives tourism in a difficult time. We shall move on to the next speaker. May I invite Madam Christina Aquino, President of Tourism Industry Board Foundation Corporation in the Philippines and the past president of ICRTH, one of the largest tourism organization conferences in the world. Madam Christina, over to you.
Mabuhay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this invitation to share a commentary. I bring you good tidings from TIBFI, the Tourism Industry Board Foundation Incorporated, a 40-year-old organization representing government, industry, as well as labor and academe. It takes a village to raise a child. That's a very nice saying that we have, where it is not just one person who actually raises tourism in this instance. You also need a lot of hands actually helping out to make sure that tourism becomes responsible and you are able to also sustain any initiatives that you make in tourism. There are many changes that are happening right now. Some that have taken many steps in a span of 1 year, where before it would take maybe a decade to actually do that. I'm very thankful that now the environment is better. We are able to hear birds chirping in the city. We don't have as much pollution in the air right now. We can actually see mountains and we can appreciate trees that are looking very happy. And so what we need to do is make sure that the positive changes that we have are actually sustained in the future. There are many changes that have happened, some that are work in progress, some where they are just testing the waters at the moment. And finally, when it is put into when everything is actually settled, then you can say that the final change is going to be there. There needs to be collaboration that will happen. It cannot be just government who will dictate policies and industry should follow, but in even crafting some of the policies, there is need for government to listen to some of the stakeholders, whether it is industry or government. In the same token, that industry can actually be helpful to the other sectors of industry. Collaboration is key in any of this change. I'd also like to say that as closing, embrace change or be left behind. We cannot just simply stay put and say, I will let COVID embrace me. You have to move forward. Otherwise, your business, your enterprise can be left behind, and there would be others that would have taken steps to move forward. And I would like to congratulate everyone in this conference. We have moved forward. We have not let COVID cover the conference. I am just amazed at the number of participants as well as the many sessions that we have. And we have actually been able to attend as many sessions without leaving the comforts of our home. So thank you very much to all the organizers, to the speakers, and to everyone who has helped make this conference a success. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Christina. We move on to the next speaker, Ms. Kazue Nakamoto, Principal Officer, Center for Tourism Research and International Relations Division, Wakayama University, Japan. Over to you, Ms. Kazue.
Hello, everyone. I am Kazue Nakamoto from Center for Tourism Research, Wakayama University, Japan. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the organizers and speakers on this successful event. So many people have contributed in so many ways and turned this event very fruitful and inspiring with many interesting presentations. I'm very honored to be part of it. Thank you for having me today. As mentioned, I am from Center for Tourism Research at Wakayama University. The mission of the center is to contribute to the development of a sound and sustainable society through internationalization and advancement of tourism research. Our research keywords are ethics and responsibility, diversity and equity, and community and environment. The theme of the conference and the mission of a research center are very similar. I learned so many things from this symposium. Thank you very much. This conference covered numerous interesting topics such as ecotourism, heritage tourism, community-based tourism, smart tourism, and so on. All of these topics are very important and critical for responsible and sustainable tourism. But I'd like to make a brief comment, particularly on two things. One is about domestic tourism. International mobility is almost impossible and very limited. So domestic tourism is the key for survival and recovery for tourism industry. Quite a few speakers addressed that it is a time to focus on domestic tourism. In fact, Japanese government initiated a campaign called Go to Travel, which offers a huge discount on travel within Japan. Due to this campaign, more people travel locally, and it could give them opportunities to rediscover local charm. Hoshino Resorts, a leading proponent of microtourism, said that now is a time to focus on domestic tourism. It is the best time to enhance domestic tourism and embrace your own cities, prefectures, countries, and region. The second thing stick to my mind is the word trust. The word trust has been repeatedly mentioned during this conference. Through tourism, we can collaborate, support each other, work together, and create one big global community. Tourism can be used to create a better and peaceful world. In order to achieve that, responsible tourism is critical. Thank you again for the organizers of this event and all the speakers. This event was a great initiative to remind us of how important responsible tourism is. Thank you. ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Ms. Kazue. We move on to the next speaker. May I invite Mr. Sandhu Subaya, Chairman of Indonesia Tourist Guide Association in Indonesia. Over to you, Mr. Sandhu Subaya. Mr. Sandhu Subaya, please come in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon for everyone. So Dr. Hiram and all committee, it is an honor for me as a tour guide in Indonesia, receiving invitation and joining the prestigious conference. And we got many of science explanation, scientific explanation from all speakers. Well, I speak from the point of view of practitioner, as I am still active tourist guide in Indonesia, and I was elected as the chairman of tourist guide, national tourist guide. So the point of view of the tourist guide, I see that tourism actually sell the happiness. So involving people to people contact, partial equivalent meeting between two parties, tourists and local people, must obtain satisfaction. That's the principle for both sides. Just like sellers and buyers in the market, they have to get the contentment for both sides. Our position as a receptive agent must prepare the best possible services and product, taken advantage from this situation, the crisis caused by pandemic COVID-19. So what is the product of tourism? Tourism product, this only image, that's intangible. So in order to get higher value, the product must be narrated by who? That's the role of the tourist guide, but through their skill of interpreting and storytelling. So for building, for rebuild responsible tourism and attractive and sustainable, the government, and in this case, the authority must train tourist guide to be a good medium for educating both sides. The tourists and the local people, how to conserve the nature and implementing the health protocol, cleanliness, health, safety, and environment. That's from our point of view as a practitioner and a tourism stakeholder, a tourist guide in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandhu. Let us move on to the next speaker, Mr. Kaur, the chairman, Pasar Cambodia chapter. I'm also just informed that he could not make it due to some unforeseen circumstances. We will move on to the next speaker, Mr. Bruno, Executive Director, the International Ecotourism Society, ICRTH, one of the largest ecotourism societies in the world from the USA. Over to you, Mr. John.
To the honorable organizers, delegates, and attendees, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is John Bruno. I'm the Executive Director of the International Ecotourism Society, affectionately known as TIES. Our website is ecotourism.org. At TIES, we have a monthly meeting with chapter heads representing over 100 countries. And our chapters are made up of tourism operators and people who serve travelers on the ground. And these chapter heads, about a week ago, from over 100 countries that represent hundreds of millions of people, say the travelers they hear from want more ecotourism and are demanding sustainable travel. And we can all congratulate ourselves a little bit, I think, because our global sustainable tourism family has worked very hard to get this far. As always, we have more work to do, of course, but I know that with the passion and expertise that I see here in this conference, that we will do that work together. We will continue to use sustainable practices and sustainable development and respect for the world's communities and ecosystems, because we know that ecotourism allows people from around the world to share cultures and experience peace, whether it is a journey of 10 miles or 10,000 miles. When we are eco-travelers, we travel to actively do good, and we recognize the value in the communities and the ecosystems we visit. As other speakers have said, we can use this time of growth to give communities a chance to lift up their voices. I finally want to thank the International Conference on Responsible Tourism and Hospitality organizers and every single attendee for the work that they've done and will do for our global family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John Bruno. Let us move on to the next speaker, Mr. Daniel Chang, founder and president, Redefine Tourism Mixer, RTM in Taiwan. Over to you, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Hiram, and all the members of the organizing committee. It's a great work. Thank you for all the efforts. In my session regarding online travel agency and travel technology, we all agree to accelerate the innovation and upgrading our industry in such a tough time. Travel innovation requires collaboration of content suppliers, OTA channels, technology marketer, and an open source environment established by government. Under pandemic, technology solutions for standardized components, ticketing, and digital marketing are the keys to empowerment of overall industry. So in one word, offline to online gets a very good timing to be enhanced to a different level, connecting more local players onto effective sales and promotions. Lastly, by staying optimistic about the future and learning new skills by embodying the travel practitioner's core competitiveness, we would be able to obtain prior opportunities after pandemic. With all of you, we will hang on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. We move on to the next speaker, Professor Dr. Divine Chaozhi, the head of the Center for Settlement Studies, Kuan Ruma University of Science and Technology from Ghana. Over to you, Professor Divine.
Yeah, hello, thank you very much, and greetings to you all from Kumasi, Ghana, and greetings from the Vice-Chancellor from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Yeah, so I'm speaking for the Center for Settlement Studies, where our research interventions are geared towards addressing the SDGs. Let me say that personally, I'm not a tourism expert, but I've been very happy and enjoyed all the issues that have been discussed over the past 2 days, especially as I came in with the Impact Award. And one area that I want to focus on is reading from the literature. As I understand it, sustainable development covers the 3 main areas of the environment, economic, and then the social. But for some time or in the past, tourism industry has mostly focused on the financial aspect to the detriment of protecting the environment. And I think that is where responsible tourism has become the pathway for addressing the SDGs. And so one thing I learned from the discussion yesterday was the issue of having a plan for impact. And I think going forward, it would be good that if you want to address responsible tourism, then we need to have a plan and also a policy guideline in place for all stakeholders, so that we should also be able to measure the impact. And I think that is something useful that I gathered from the talk yesterday. Having a responsible tourism plan is something that I think will be very useful. And so here at the Center for Settlement Studies, what we have been doing recently is looking at how to incorporate smart cities concept into community tourism, and then trying to use smart tourism to address community livelihood, and also using ICT to conserve local culture and the habitat, and also improving the livelihood of residents. So I think that whilst you talk about responsible tourism, going forward, especially in this era of the COVID, it will be good to look at the smart concepts in line with rural communities, looking at smart environment, smart economy, smart living, the smart people, and then smart mobility, and then smart governance. And I think with this, we will all be addressing the issue in a holistic way towards a responsible tourism for the whole society, so that we can have a livable society all over the world. Once again, I'm very grateful for the invitation. I want to thank you all for a very good work done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Divine. Moving on to the next speaker, Professor Dr. N. Suwari Ashton, Associate Dean for Administration, Graduate School of Tourism Management, National Institute of Development Administration from Thailand. Over to you, Professor N.
Thank you very much, Professor Hiram. First of all, I would like to congratulate the team, and we are working, I see we are working very hard, and the event had been classed as regarded a worldwide event that I think and I can see, because the topic that we cover is every aspect that we should have in the tourism. And myself, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. And I'm very, very happy to be here. And for my perspective about the event, I think this is already our next new normal. We are in different parts of the world, and we can get together in such short time, and we were very well organized. We just pick up the phone, we just pick up our line, we just pick up our WhatsApp. Immediately, our speakers, our colleagues, our students, everyone step in and want to be part of that. And I congratulate that this conference is very, very first conference in the world, I would say, is our next new normal of working together. From what I observed, I found that so many points that we can do together. So on my perspective, I'm talking about wellness tourism, and I have a group of people who are willing to help people, who have giving hand. The most important thing that have not been mentioned, and I maybe added up from all the speakers, which is very invaluable for us. First thing that we need to be together. COVID-19 came in that no one can survive, but we will survive together. And this is a platform or a case study tell us that we have to work together. So I have summarized a few points that I've learned from this conference, and then we can expand and then we can continue. Of course, this is the beginning, not the end. First thing that we need to watch out, look after each other, be healing and coping. Thank you for Professor Sari, my colleague. She contributed to that. Yes, we need to look after our people. We look after the people next to you and around the world. We need to give a knowledge. We need to give our next generation to be able to learn, to be able to get a skill for the next new normal, not only in the hotel tourism industry, but as a whole, as a community. We need to give the knowledge to all the local. Of course, we need to keep sustainable. We need to get our reserve environment. And what my perspective, I'm very, very honored to be in this event, very honored to be part of the team. And again, once again, congratulations for just a short notice and time. You make event big success. Thank you for the management. Thank you for the executive management in your school. And I'm very proud to be part of that. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. N. Next, we would like to invite Madam Sherry Asli, board member, Yayasan Sukarelawan Siswa Malaysia, and the former Chief Executive Officer, Malaysia
very much, Dr. Hiram. I'm very honored to be here. Honorable Minister YB Datuk Haji Abdul Karim, Rahman Hamzah, distinguished speakers, our esteemed organizers, hosts, and all the delegates that have been with us today. Assalamualaikum, a very good day to all of you. I must say that I'm very honored to be part of this conference, talking about sustainable development and talking about rebuilding tourism for the future. So when we speak about sustainable development, we look into the economics of things, we look into the social aspects, and we look into the environmental aspects of things. And all these have been challenged during COVID-19. So when we speak about rebuilding tourism, what do we need to do? So personally, I believe that we have to look at three things, but these things are anchored on one core theme, which is trust. When I talk about trust about tourism, not only the trust about future tourists coming to our destinations, our country, our hometown, but it's also about our trust in receiving tourists coming into our country. So, it's about building that trust again post-COVID-19. And I think that's the gist of all that. And talking about building that trust, there are three ways to do it. And number one is about building that confidence. And again, confidence about coming into a place that's safe, that is of no threat, that has herd immunity. So that's something that we need to build now before our borders are fully opened. And then number two, we have to look into understanding the new market trends that are emerging now post-COVID. So, things are going to be very different. Market trends are going to be very different. Behavior of people are going to be very different. So, and their demands are going to be changing as well. So what are these drivers? We need to understand the drivers that make all these changes for us to be able to effectively build tourism again. And then the third one, we need to look into building that sustainability through our commitment to build a resilient and sustainable environment. And this commitment is not just from the industry players. We have to look at our government, our policymakers. We have to look at our partners and also our players all over the region, all over the world to make this happen together. Because we can't do this on our own. So these three key things are critical if you want to rebuild tourism, through rebuilding the trust amongst us. And when we look again at that, one of the key things as well is that we need to have the pipeline of talents. So when we look at this conference, we have a lot of academias here, looking into how we want to supply the talent. And for me, if you're looking at having a full-fledged new ways of doing things in our new tourism landscape, we need to have new skills and new competencies built with our talent. So I'm looking at all my colleagues in the universities, in all the education institutions, to relook at our new business model and draw up our modules to adapt to the new tourism business model post-COVID-19. I think that's very important, acknowledging the new digital technology, the data analytics, market intelligence, and these are all different skills needed from our graduates, our people playing in the area. So with that, I would like to congratulate the organizers for such a successful conference, and I would like to wish all our participants the best in rebuilding tourism in the future through sustainable development. With that, Assalamualaikum and very good day. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Madam Chairman Hasli. Next, we would like to invite Ms. Anita Mendirata. Unfortunately, she could not make it. She's having a meeting at Saudi Arabia with UNWTO delegates as well. She told me earlier she would try to make time, but apparently she must be giving a talk or something at the moment. So anyway, she is the founder and president of Anita Mendirata and Associates in the United Kingdom, special advisor of Zhang UNWTO. If you wish to get insights from her speech, again, the video will be uploaded on the conference website for watching and re-watching. Last but not least, Professor Dr. Alastair M. Morrison, Research Professor, University of Greenwich, UK, co-editor of International Journal of Tourism Cities. Over to you, Professor Alastair. Professor Alastair, over to you.
Can you please invite me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm not appearing on the screen.
We can see you.
Can you see me?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, you can. Okay, I can't see myself. So but that's not an uncommon thing. Thank you very much for the invitation, Dr. Hiram and Your Excellencies. I think this was a wonderful conference, and I'm happy to have been a small part of it. It's been a good learning experience for myself, and it's always great, I think, to have the last word in any conference, in any situation. I always say that to my wife, that it's always great to have the last word, but in my home, sadly, that does not happen. Also, it's a great opportunity for me to wear my batiks, and these ones, I know that batik is very common in Malaysia. It's part of the culture there, and it's part of the culture in Indonesia. I talked when I did my forum yesterday about world tourism cities and sustainability. So my focus was on urban areas in their role in tourism and responsible tourism. And I'm an educator, I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm a researcher, I'm a consultant, and I always try and come up with little learning tools, sometimes they're acronyms, sometimes they're other kinds of heuristics. And I was thinking about the word city, C-I-T-Y, and what could we take out of this conference that we could put in the word city? So let me start, C-I-T-Y. C, I think, in the future means that we need to conserve and consider. We need to conserve and consider. We need to think about not compromising the other C. We need to conserve and consider the social cultural resources we have, the environmental resources that we have. So I think the first, that's actually two C's. We need to conserve and consider all the stakeholders, including the residents of our destination. The I believe, again, it's a double I, is to involve and invest, to involve and invest. In other words, we need to, this was brought out by a number of speakers, we need to form new partnerships. That's what I mean by involvement. Involve all the stakeholders and invest in cooperation more in the future. The T, and what I mean there, what we don't need to do is we don't need to ignore parts of our community and parts of our society. We need to involve and invest. We need to treasure and not trash. Treasure and not trash. And I listened to the speaker from the Philippines, and I loved what he said about Boracay. It's such a good case study. A tough decision to close down your major tourism destination. So we need to treasure, and particularly we need to treasure our USPs, our unique selling propositions in our destination. And the why of city is really important. And what I mean by the why is we have to focus on yield, not volume. Yield, not volume. We've had a tendency in the past to focus on number of tourists, the total international tourism arrivals in the world, the total arrivals to each country. We need to focus on the yield, the per capita yield in the future. So that's my little city acronym. And I think it draws together much of what people were saying. You know, COVID-19, I would say, has been the greatest wake-up call in history for world tourism. It's been the greatest wake-up call in history for world tourism. So if we recognize that, what have we learned by having the biggest wake-up call of all times in tourism? And you asked, you gave me 3 minutes, which for a professor is impossible, as you know, Hiram. I think there's 2 lessons. First of all, we need to reassess our major priorities. We need to reassess our major priorities. And the second one, we need to revisit our fundamental assumptions. We need to revisit our fundamental assumptions. What I mean by reassess our major priorities, in many countries, including those in Southeast Asia and other parts of the Asia Pacific, we've had a priority on international tourism. The lady from Japan earlier said we need to focus more on domestic travel and domestic tourism. And that doesn't mean just doing what we're doing right now. It means we need to have a policy in our country, in our state, for domestic tourism that covers the long term. We need to have a strategy and plan for domestic tourism and not just for international. We need to think about the balance of leisure tourism and business tourism. It's another priority. The emphasis has been more on leisure tourism, but we need to focus more on the business side of tourism. And I'll come to that a little bit later. I haven't heard anyone, I didn't attend all the sessions. We haven't heard anyone talk about social tourism, tourism for the underprivileged in society. Social tourism, it's existed for many, many decades. We're giving away vouchers for people to travel. What about the people who are less fortunate? What about them? Shouldn't we always be giving them vouchers? Should they not have an equal opportunity in the future? This is a question. Okay, now second one is revisit fundamental assumptions. One of the assumptions we make is that business travelers are business travelers and leisure travelers are leisure travelers. Wrong, wrong. Now we have leisure. In the millennial generation and the Generation Z, they like, or Z, if you're in the UK or Malaysia, Generation Z, they like to add on vacation travel or leisure travel to the business trips. Why are we marketing these 2 areas of tourism separately? We need to find a way to combine them in the future. All right. The other one, which is one of my hobby horses, is visiting friends and relatives. We ignore this market, yet in most destinations, it's 50% or more of the travel. So we need to revisit these fundamental assumptions. We assume that VFR travelers do not spend money. Wrong. We assume VFR travelers do not stay in hotels. Wrong. So that's what I'm saying. We need to reassess these. So I want to thank you very much for inviting me. I hope that you all have a great weekend. And this has been a fantastic conference. And I really, really congratulate Hiram, particularly, if you don't mind me calling you that, Hiram, for pulling off such a wonderful event. It was great to be a small part of it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Professor Lester Morrison. Thank you so much for your insights. For the last 2 days, we have heard so much. We have learned so much. And there are so many highlights, so many takeaways. I will just mention one point. I quote, "No one stakeholder can drive recovery on its own. Public and private stakeholders in Asia need to collaborate and have a coordinated and consistent approach to mitigate impact and ensure a speedy and effective recovery." Another quote, "The crisis is an opportunity to rethink tourism for the future in the region. Tourism is at a crossroad, and the measures put in place today will shape the tourism of tomorrow. Governments need to consider the longer-term implications of the crisis, putting into strategies based on trust and confidence of all tourism sectors." Next, we would like to invite Yang Muhammad Datuk Haji Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah, the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Sarawak, Malaysia, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Sarawak, Malaysia, to give concluding remarks. Thank you, Datuk.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to all panelists and delegates. Yang berbahagia menjadi Zhang, the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture, Sarawak. His Excellency Mr. Tong Randasan, the Director General of Tourism Development and International Cooperation, Ministry of Tourism, Cambodia. His Excellency Mr. Robert Alabato, the Undersecretary Tourism Development Planning, Department of Tourism, the Philippines. Dr. Amar Abdul, Senior Director, Domestic and Defense, Division Tourism Malaysia. Mr. Harry Huang, the Director, Regional Department for Asia and Pacific World Tourism Organization, or UNWTO. Mr. Wang Yat Seng, the Regional Manager, Emerald Publishing East Asia. Dr. Peter Ng, President and Acting Vice-Chancellor, UCSI University, Malaysia. Madam Mukvinder Kaur, Sandhu, the Prof, Vice-Chancellor, UCSI University, Sarawak campus, as well as the Chairperson for Regional Center of Expertise, or RCE, Kuching. Associate Professor Dr. Hiram King, Assistant Professor Dr. Yong Hui Ling, the chairs of the National Conference of Responsible Tourism and Hospitality, or ICRTH2021, Scientific and Working Committee of the conference, panelists, attendees, delegates from all over the world. Well, 2 months ago, I was briefed about the International Conference on Responsible Tourism and Hospitality, or in short, ICRTH2021. Sitting here now, I'm giving closing remarks to conclude the conference. Time has passed very quickly. It is an honor to be with all of you today, although we are physically apart and we have to see each other via Zoom and Facebook. I have a deep conviction that we are very much connected in our mind, in our passion, and our will to rebuild tourism and revive travel and hospitality industry. After listening to the commentaries by 14 distinguished guest speakers, I'm very much more convinced that we have to work together to overcome the present challenges and emerge stronger, more sustainable, and more responsible. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for all your insight. I hope the conference organizers would transcribe and publish all these words so that we could read and consider them again. I'm amazed but pleased at the same time with how ICRTH2021 has developed and what it has achieved. I'm informed that 100 distinguished speakers from 28 countries are involved in this conference, including His and Her Excellencies from Indonesia, from Cambodia, from the Philippines, esteemed officials from UNWTO, from UNESCO, from Qatar, and tourism professionals from some renowned tourism organizations, such as Interpret in Australia, the International Ecotourism Society, or TICE, in the United States, and Redefined Tourism Mixer, or RTM, from Taiwan, which are some of the largest tourism institutions globally, as well as professors and researchers from universities.
that contributed 27 sessions in these 2 days, including 3 keynote speeches, 13 professional forums, 8 professional workshops, and 1 expert dialogue. As Minister of Tourism, Art and Culture, Sarawak, and on behalf of my ministry, I wish to express my gratitude to all these speakers for giving so much to this conference. Your presence and your speech are a testament of our solidarity and commitment to rebuild tourism and realize sustainable development goals in a responsible manner. Please be rest assured that my ministry is part of this collective unit and will remain open to learning and resilient to challenges and crises ahead of us. I hope we will meet one day in person in the near future. Moreover, I'm informed that more than 3,000 delegates from 96 countries from all 6 continents have registered themselves for ICRTH2021. Apart from the registration, I'm also impressed with the turnout, be it on Zoom or via Facebook live stream. So much has been said and discussed by the speakers in these 2 days, and I'm very sure all of you must have learned and gained a lot. I'm also told that the recording of all conferences sessions will be uploaded on the conference website for watching and re-watching. I like this arrangement as it shows that we are here to network, to learn and create value for others, including those who miss out on these conferences. It is high time that we practice what we preach, what we hear, and what we know. I believe putting words into action is what responsibility is about in its simplest definition. Responsibility requires us to take action and work with others in order to make a positive impact on our community as well as our society. This is the essence of responsible tourism. Responsible tourism is not another tourism product or tourism level. Instead, it is an ongoing and urgent call for collective effort to make tourism sustainable. A better place for people to visit and a better place for people to stay. This conference covers many important topics related to ecotourism, domestic tourism, heritage tourism, regenerative tourism, wellness and health tourism, food tourism, smart tourism, experiential or immersive tourism, and so on and so forth. It also covers the relationship between responsible tourism and 17 sustainable development goals from the perspective of SPs, namely people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. While we are improving our policies and guidelines all the time to address what confronts us, including COVID-19 pandemic and its subsequent effects, such as lockdowns and travel restrictions. What also matters is our will to cooperate with others using trust as our currency and respect in our transactions. The pandemic has taught us to be responsible to ourselves and to others. I'm convinced that if we take heed of the advice and insights by the speakers in these 2 days with a sense of responsibility, we will not only pull through this crisis, but also rebuild our industry and business into a more sustainable way. If we do that, tourism will become a great vehicle for all of us to revive our economy, improve on our social welfare, including the local communities, and preserve the environmental well-being for the present as well as the future generation. Even though we cannot measure the success of ICRTH 2021 through registration and turnout directly, it is still a remarkable achievement given the short amount of time to put up such an event. With that, my ministry and I wish to congratulate the organizer, Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism Management, UCSI University, Sarawak Research Society, and Emerald Publishing in East Asia for your leadership and your great work. I'm also made aware that this conference is supported by 14 international institutions from Taiwan, from Thailand, from Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, the Philippines, from Hong Kong, as well as from Malaysia. Thank you for all your contribution, and I hope the partnership will not end here. Rather, it will carry on and grow stronger. After hearing the key highlights of ICRTH 2021, provided by Dr. Hiram, and the commentaries by the distinguished speakers, I can't help but think that my ministry, together with the organizers and the tourism stakeholders in Sarawak, should make a commitment to them. The 2002 Cape Town Declaration on Responsible Tourism was made almost 20 years ago. Cape Town Declaration is still relevant today. And we are not going to make another declaration. Instead, we would like to make a Sarawak commitment to responsible tourism by continually working with tourism stakeholders, including the local communities, to develop tourism in conjunction with realizing sustainable development goals. I invite all of you to be part of Sarawak commitment to rebuild tourism responsibly through sustainable development. In conclusion, ICRTH will not end here. The organizers have informed me that ICRTH will be held again next year, in the year 2022. Let this conference be the initiation of Sarawak's commitment to responsible tourism, so that when we meet again next year, we will be able to share with one another how much we have progressed in our locality, in our region, and our country as part of the global community. If travel is safe, I hope to see you in Sarawak and welcome you in person one of this day. For those who have been to Sarawak before, let me invite you to come to Sarawak again. Let us use this avenue to perpetuate our deep conversation regarding our commitment to responsible tourism. Until then, do stay safe and get connected. Once again, thank you for joining the National Conference on Responsible Tourism and Hospitality 2021. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Datuk, for the closing remarks. With that, International Conference on Responsible Tourism and Hospitality 2021 has come to an end. Dr. Leong Chuling and I are grateful to be given the opportunity to chair this extraordinary conference. Before we end, Dr. Leong Chuling, are you online? Would you like to say a few words about this event as a co-chair?
Yes, hi, Dr. Hiram.
Hi.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers and the delegates for participating in this conference. So as the co-chair of ICRTH 2021, I'm very, very honored and delighted to be given the opportunity. And all the discussions throughout these 2 days have been very, very much provoking. And despite this particular pandemic that is happening now, it does not stop us from learning from each other. So finally, I would like to say, Kami sayang Sarawak. I hope to revisit Sarawak very soon. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Julie, do you know the virtual background that you are using? You know
Yes.
So when travel is safe, we hope you will see this place in person.
Yes, yes. I'm very much eager to.
Thank you, Dr. Leong. As a final note, the conference will end here, yet our networking and cooperation continue. Like what Datuk said earlier, let us remain connected to build tourism responsibly and sustainably. Also, as Datuk said earlier, let this conference be the initiation of the 2021 Sarawak commitment to responsible tourism through sustainable development. Remember to visit our website to watch or rewatch the recordings and download your certificate, e-certificate as a memorial. We will also upload the slides by the speakers soon. We hope to see you in ICRTH 2022. Stay safe, stay connected, stay healthy, stay committed. Goodbye.
Why do we need to go so far? The mountain, a thirst to reach the peak, gazing beyond the waterfall, a desire to seek its source, a deeper exploration of the sea, to be in love with fear and become fearless. Why must we witness, hearing the stories of another tribe, seeing their legends with our own eyes, echoing the longing of my heart? Yet it's as if I am home. Why do we want to be here, taking a deep breath of foreign air? Only when you feel it yourself have you lived, finding peace in the hustle and bustle of life, enriching hungry palates. Why leave our trace? The wonderland you seek will be a huge one. All has been prepared here for you centuries ago. One's destination is never a place, but new ways of seeing things. Why limit yourself?